All right, good evening, you all. Tonight we are meeting with Dana Martin Davis, and I kind of feel like Johnny Carson, or I don't know. I think this is the third time that Dana has been with us. This is the 10th course, but this is the third time that Dana has been a part of this because I think she's so exemplary, and I don't know that there's been anybody else that has been on the Klein-Artist-Works program 3 times. Dana is Dana is an amazing collector, an amazingly gifted human being, a passionate businesswoman, but not a business, and just totally remarkable. All right, so Dana, good evening.
Yes, to quote Jay-Z, I'm a business woman, not a business woman. I'm a business woman, not a business woman.
All right, so
at least Peregrine gets that. Some other people get that too, I'm pretty sure.
Me?
Okay, all right.
How long have you been collecting?
It's probably been now. This is the crazy thing. I found a link last night, and I spoke in Chicago last year at the Art Institute.
Right.
So I said then 15, which now means this is 16 going on 17. I will not do the Sound of Music song, okay?
Good. I know. High on a hill that they'll always go through. How did you get into collecting? What happened? How did this disease attack it? What happened?
What really happened, and the people that know me know, I have never stopped painting. I've always been a painter. I'm a reasonably mediocre painter. It's just that I clicked into, I'm really functional also in the business world. And it began to be really exciting to me to encourage other people. I was not particularly encouraged as an artist, and I don't mean that I was terrible. I was always sort of best in the class sort of person. But it began to be really exciting for me to go to a museum and realize that if the painting on the wall in a museum, not a shopping mall, not some decorative, tourist sort of art gallery, but you can go to a museum, and if the thing on the wall in the museum says collection of the artist, that thing is for sale.
True.
You can buy things that are in museums. So although I've only been collecting now for 16 years, going on 17, I've been giving things directly to museums or from specifically our collection for 8 years now, going on 9. And a lot of people wait a long time or get things in warehouses and give them away. But my thing is, if you do that and you're waiting, what are you waiting? You're waiting for somebody to die so the value goes up? That's like baseball trading cards to me. And I collect the work of living artists. I collect the work of emerging artists.
That's really beautiful, and we salute you for that and love you for that, and you're going to be inundated because of that. But that's great.
So are you going to do an interview or a Q&A, or am I going to talk a little bit, or how are we going to do the forum?
I'm going to try and interrupt you periodically.
Okay, all right.
Now, you said something really interesting about business and trying to share your enthusiasm for art.
I lost you.
I'm sorry. You were talking about business and your enthusiasm for sharing art with business and trying to share. I guess where I'm going is, can you talk about art to business people who are not already part of the cult?
I can.
And what is it met with? Do you ever turn others into collectors or people who will look at art more seriously because of your conversation?
I don't think that part is my responsibility. I don't think that part is my responsibility. My responsibility is to bring people along and introduce people, and then they're responsible for the next step. To give you an example, I had a luncheon for an artist in Paris, and immediately, and it was one of my favorite restaurants in Paris, immediately after this luncheon, the people come over who own the restaurant, and she said to me, I think he's brilliant. If I could do something for him, let me know. If I could have a reception for him, if I could put his art in my restaurant, whatever I could do, let me know. And that was immediate.
Right.
You know? And so that's the way I believe it happens. I think we're all sort of in this very short relay race in life. And we get the opportunity to hand off the baton. Hopefully we take what's handed to us and then hand it off to the next person. But we're not really responsible for what the next person does with it, right?
No, totally can't be, can we?
Right, right. You hand it off. You pass it on.
Yeah, but you're an instigator. You're fertilizer. You're someone who, when people come in contact with you, their lives are enhanced because of your presence. You could be the Dalai Lama in every incarnation, but you bring a beautiful gift to the art world. And
but I'm having fun.
Yes.
And I'm happy. How many people do you know who've gone through all these business cycles who are really, truly happy, excited, engaged people? Part of that has to do with my engagement, involvement with art, because here's what I say consistently to people. I've got a couple of things I say to business people. And one of the things I say is everything you hear all day long, you turn on CNN, you listen to something in your car, whatever you hear all day long has so much to do with destruction. A great deal of my life, a huge portion of my life, has everything to do with creation. And I'm very wrapped up in people who are creating and making. I don't come alongside people who do destruction. I don't like it. It's a downward pull. It's so negative. And, I'm about connecting with people who are making things, who are creating things. And there is a really loving, supportive, not kumbaya, crazy, new age, whoopity-doo, but a real, true, supportive, practical reality to how you do life in a happier way when you're involved with people who are creative and supportive of each other. It's very simple.
Yeah, that's really totally true and obvious once you grasp it, but sometimes not. Now, let's take the creativity thing a step further. You are a co-owner of a steel company, which is about construction, building, creativity. Creative.
Well, meaning I have, I've collected museum quality art. I've given work to museums, and now I can say I have built museums. And that's a real, I have contributed to the structural integrity of museums. I love that. It's doing it all.
The first question, though, is, are there parallels to how artists think and work in the steel business and working with contractors and working with architects?
I really would have to say that because first and foremost, I was an artist before I could write.
Yep.
I drew before I could write. And if you could see, I'm not going to show you a picture of it right now because I haven't been there since June. But if you could see my office right now, I have a big piece of rusty steel with a trompe-l'oeil painting of a box of Crayola crayons. And a box of Crayola crayons is a touchstone in my life. I mean, it sounds very simple, but I'm an extremely simple person.
No, you're not. But nice try. Sorry. Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a really, really intense business meeting that happened in my office. And when I took a break and I left the office, the two gentlemen across the table asked my best and most trusted ever coworker, my honorable #1 son, Weston, what's the deal with the crayons? Because I have the painting of crayons on the wall, and I actually had boxes of crayons you know, the 64 box of crayons with a sharpener in the back? That was the mother lode of creativity when you were 5?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I had like 3 boxes of those open. And they didn't even dare ask about it until I left the room. What's the deal with the crayons? Like, she's a piece of work. She's a force of nature. What's the deal with the crayons? And my son said, and perfect right answer, I think she intends for everyone to use all the colors in the box.
Beautiful.
And that's what we're here to do. It's just that simple.
How long have you been involved with the museum? Which one, why, and how has your involvement grown and changed?
You mean like museums I've built or I've gone to, or?
You've been supporting the Mint Museum, right?
Pardon?
You are a significant supporter of the Mint Museum.
Well, I mean, generations after I'm dead, the steel's going to be holding up the building.
Yes, but you are a supporter. You are an advocate. You donate work to them more than to others. You have closer relationships with staff.
I would not say more than others, because of one of my favorite donations, Paul, was you know, if we all think back to Jacob Lawrence. Now, I want you to know that my personal philosophy, not to criticize anyone else, my personal philosophy is only to buy the work of living artists. That's just me. It's not about investment. It's not about anything except for my heart. And Jacob Lawrence, Genesis Suite, when I bought that, we were building a structure, and it was University Park Baptist Church, a magnetic, giant, wonderfully socially positive African-American congregation. And we gave the Jacob Lawrence Genesis Suite to Reverend Claude Alexander and the University Park Baptist Church after Jacob Lawrence passed away. You know, sometimes you buy something in anticipation it's going to go a certain place. Other times you buy something and then it just strikes you on any given day, it needs to be this place.
You give away more art yearly than most collectors. How many?
I'm not a very smart person.
Oh, of course not. How many? This kid I went to high school with who would insult himself so the rest of us would compliment him.
No, I'm saying in terms of, no, I don't mean in terms of my IQ. I'm not insecure about that part, but I'm saying I'm really disgusted, and I understand why so many artists are very demoralized with what is happening in the contemporary art world today, and people who approach it as if it's playing the stock market. Where is the soul in that?
Thank you.
Where is the soul in that? So my thing is, I remember, okay, we go back to the Mint Museum, which I love, not because it's a building, but because it's a wonderful place. It's got a growing collection. And if I may shout out my favorite museum director in the country, Dr. Kathleen Jameson, who happens to be a woman, who happens to have a PhD. And so her subject is not just art. Her subject is also, she has an MBA. She would be a great person to speak on here.
Okay.
She really would. You need some museum people. Kathleen would be brilliant. And I'm so bullish on her because she's reasonably young. She's come to the museum. And she, to me, is as important to the museum as any curator, as any part of the collection, as our steel, which will last generations. Because, you know, I'm on to the next thing. I'm going to be in Paris. I'm going to go to London. I want to see that Damien Hirst retrospective for myself. I want to go to Kansas City and see what Peregrine has going on in the center of the country. I don't want to miss it.
That's really beautiful. In an average year, or in the past 12, 18 months, how many works of art have you acquired and how many have you given away?
I don't know. I'm going to hedge on that.
Sure.
But let me say very frankly, I only gave one thing. I only gave one thing to the Mint Museum last year. I only gave one sculpture to the Mint Museum last year. What was shocking to me, because I don't want to go into the boring business part of it, but I sort of have to project, like, how much am I going to give to this place or this place for the year? I hadn't had that sculpture very long, and when it was appraised, it had appreciated so much that I gave so much to the museum, more than I anticipated giving them, that I was kind of in trouble because I gave away too much. Does that make sense? No. It doesn't make sense. But because I got started late, I wanted to go over just a couple of things. And a couple of things I wanted to say, as long as there's some artists gathered together. And the first thing I wanted to say is I listened to myself yesterday because I just uncovered a link. I was speaking in Chicago at the International Sculpture Conference at the Art Institute of Chicago. I had to go very long because one of the presenters called in sick, and they asked me to be a two-speaker instead of a one-speaker. And I misspoke several times. But the reality is, if I say anything that you don't understand, I'm not talking to Paul because Paul doesn't care. I run into him. You have to know, and this is why I say it's the art village and not the art world. I was coming out of Unlisted last year in Miami, and Rick and I were walking across the street, and we just ran into Paul walking across the street. We hadn't planned it. I ran into Paul the previous year because I went to the Standard, and it's like you just run into each other. That's why I call it the art village. But I wanted to say a couple of things that if you all as artists have any questions, please contact me, regardless of the fact that he put DMD. I'm Dana Martin Davis. You can connect me via Paul, via Facebook. Send me a message. I'm extremely accessible. I pride myself on being accessible and answering questions and talking and having a cup of coffee in real time. So, yeah, that's what I do. But I was thinking, Paul, really, what struck me is the first time, because this is my third time, but the first time that I talked, Theaster Gates came before me. And then he and I had a little bit of patter before I came on and talked, because he and I already knew each other. And I knew what cocktail to order for him, you know, and all these other things. But something that Theaster said the very first time was about his vision. And his vision was to change the world around him. It wasn't to get a dealer. It wasn't to get an fair. It wasn't anything like that. His vision was extremely large because it was about changing the socioeconomic reality around him.
That's true. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking that sometimes, the vision might be too small. Can everybody still hear me? Because something just went black.
Yeah, I know there was an echo and then it went away. I can still hear you, and I'm sure everybody else can. I like the idea of having a big vision. I mean, I feel like if you have a big vision versus a small vision, in either one you get 80% of the way there, you're better off with a bigger vision.
You know what just strikes me? I think that people, maybe emerging artists, need to have big visions, and maybe some people who think they're big, maybe some hedge fund managers or people that get tied to, maybe some people need to have small visions. And in hearing what Eric said, I want to go back to my original reality of having artists I really believe in and having them come for dinner and have people gather around and meet them and have more of a salon environment. Because I think that sometimes people think they get big and they get anesthetized, and people who are emerging need to latch onto big ideas, and then people who think they're big for some whatever deluded reason need to bring it down to, you know, we're all just people sitting around talking about things, trying to all figure it out.
Precisely. There's something that I can't understand about you, and that is that so many artists not only know you, they love you. You know, and I've got people who are contacting me and going, Dana, I love Dana. Can I participate? Can I sit in? And, you know, I mean, with most people, it's sort of like, oh, I know him. I know her. She's wonderful. But, you know, that's not about you. That's about the others. With Dana, it's about, I love her. You know, she's so magnanimous. How do these relationships grow? How do you know so many people? How do you encounter new people? How do you fall in love? How do they fall in love with you?
I think first of all, we have to have this intention. We have this intention, regardless of what's around us or swirling, or what tornado threatens. We have to have this intention of loving and creating, and that has to be what drives us. But one of the great artist experiences I just had in October was having that luncheon that I was mentioning for an artist. And I had met him. I was coming back. Think about this, because my thing is always telling stories. And if there's anything for you to get out of my stories, that's great. If not, go on to the next thing. But I was coming back from Amsterdam because I wanted to see the Van Gogh Museum before it closed for renovation and everything was taken down. So I was going from Amsterdam to Paris on the train late at night. And this really young man got on the train, but he looked so bedraggled and he looked so burdened and he looked so exhausted and he was carrying all these things. And when he stepped on the train, I looked at him and said, "You're an artist, aren't you?" And he just looked up like he was caught and looking miserable. And he said, "How do you know?" But see, he had no way of knowing that A, it was Van Gogh I had just seen. And I don't say Van Gogh because I just have this fear of being pretentious, you know. And it happened to be my birthday. And I always know an artist when I see one. And he was schlepping his own work from Amsterdam to Paris and had to make the same damn trip the next day because the dealer there had told him it was cheaper for him to do it on the train himself than to pack it and ship it all. And isn't that the way it is? Who cares? Let the artist do it. Let him carry it on his back. Who cares? You know? And I am so frustrated in this culture that focuses on just the top and the headline and just this. I would rather sit down and have an extraordinary 5-course dinner in Chicago with some artists that are emerging, that are going to be great, and have great conversation than show up at the biggest muck invitation I ever get. So this young man had his stuff, and I was saying, please, please don't unpack it, because in my heart I was thinking, you know, it's probably crap anyway, right? It's probably terrible. I mean, we all see a lot of bad art, right?
We do.
And I just said, show it to me on the phone. And absolutely, image after image blew me away. I picked up the phone, I called a dealer who was in Venice at the time with the Biennale, and I said, you've got to see this person. I mean, this person is so brilliant, you can't believe. And looking at his face was like watching one of those time-release Disney flower blooms. And this person who was tired and burdened and all these other things, you know, let's have a cup of coffee, let's talk about it. And amazingly, Paul, that was summer of 2011. I just had a luncheon for him in Paris, 2013, this fabulous restaurant, at lunch with a curator. And she said to me, you don't know what that meant to him. Well, it meant a lot to me, too, because it was my birthday. I'd seen all these Van Goghs. Here I'd met this real artist. I scraped together all the money I had, and I gave him all the money I had and said, please, go buy art supplies. You need to keep doing this. This is great. Now he has a dealer in Paris. He's extraordinary. He's doing great work. I expect to see wonderful things. If the world continues, he's going to be historic and monumental, you know? Why can't we buy each other half a sandwich? Why do we have to keep buying work at monumental record-breaking prices till we get our names, you know, in the auction lot? So what? I just have a different take on it. I think there's something I don't get about the money thing, and I think it's all about making and encouraging, creating and loving. That's it.
That's really, really beautiful.
I mean it. I know when I listen to myself, it sounds sappy, but my children believe me.
You know, if your children believe you, it must be true, because all children are a little bit caustic when it comes to parents. So yes, you know.
They don't.
And I know you have remarkable and adorable children, and you know, yeah, you have a great relationship with them. That's beautiful. But still, all right. So what are the different scenarios that you encounter art and art? When you encounter art that really resonates, that is unfamiliar, do you seek out the artist? Sometimes, never. How's that operate?
Practically always. I can't think of too many examples. I can't think of too many examples that I've seen work and I haven't said, we need to talk, I need to meet you. I mean, I've bought things and I've met a person later and had a studio visit later. I'm looking at one thing. You can't see it because I'm looking across the room. And you all are in the dining room where we're having Thanksgiving this year. So happy Thanksgiving. I'm looking at a sculptural piece.
Can you turn the camera or you can't?
No, it's like too much trouble because I have a shoulder thing.
Okay.
You know, I took the trouble of, yeah, I can't do this.
No worries.
Okay, but it's called Icaro, and it's by an Italian ironworking master named Claudio Botero. And Claudio made this extraordinary piece. I'm looking at this. I have not met him, and I know people who have worked with him and think he's the master and they love him. I don't really have an overarching need to have a conversation with him. But as I look around me, I'm sitting in a room that probably has, I don't know, there are probably 110 pieces of art in this room. I know all of these people. And the only person who is no longer living, you see the very gray painting behind me. Requiem is a Maud Gatewood. The rest of the people they're with us. They're going to be having Thanksgiving this year too. And I love that because to me, buying a piece of art should translate into groceries and rent and electricity and more paint or barbed wire or light bulbs or however anybody wants to work, you know?
is part of your interest in acquiring a work of art to benefit the artist? I mean, if you saw a Richard Serra that you really loved, would you say, no, I'm not buying that because he doesn't need my help? Or would you say, what a beautiful piece of metal, I must have it?
Okay. Well, the difficulty is at least until the end of June, because I rolled off my day job at the end of June. But I have to tell you all that in February of this year, because I love some Richard Serra. I would show up if you needed me to. I would pay my own flight to watch Richard Serra's feet. Okay, I would. But in February of this year, I was in New Zealand seeing the largest Richard Serra in the world. And I was seeing it on land where the sheep rub up against it and leave their wool. And my most heroic, beloved collector, who's truly now my master, Alan Gibbs, has called together some of the largest commissioned sculpture in the world. But truly, Richard Serra, exactly, does not need my help. I could go into the steel shop. I could have people knock off a Richard Serra, not some of the huge ones. Oh, that's kind of it, but that's not as good as my picture.
I don't have access to your pictures.
Well, I mean, my Facebook friends do.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Peregrine does. Isn't Joanna a Facebook friend? Who else is? Somebody else is.
Somebody.
Yeah. I'll put up a Richard Serra later on tonight in homage to this conversation. But yeah, Richard Serra's too big. He doesn't need me. Richard Serra might be able to buy and sell me before tomorrow morning.
So, all right, I got distracted here. So, you love Richard Serra, but you probably wouldn't own one.
Yeah, probably because I'm not sure if I could afford him right now. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's not. Is that the issue?
No, not ever. Not ever. Because I remember the first time I bought a painting I'd seen in a 40-year retrospective. And the first time I bought the painting, the dealer said, I'm going to check and see if that's available. And I said, if that painting's available, I will buy it. And we walked out the door that day, and one of my children said, you know, you're going to get killed because you just said you would buy something and you don't know what it costs. So we all have our, but you know, I'm saying I'm fabulous that Alan Gibbs has, you know, the best and the biggest Richard Serra. Yeah, Richard Serra does not need me. I would personally, this is just me, I would have 20 to 100 other emerging artists whose work I would give away before I would buy Richard Serra.
Two questions.
Yeah.
One is, where do you go to look for? Do you look for emerging artists, or you just find them?
I think that we all just find each other. I was thinking today, somebody was talking about. I think it was P.E. Sharp who was talking about how scope used to be back in the day when they were in a hotel room. And the dealers would sleep in the hotel rooms and then open up during the day.
Yep, I remember.
And I said, yeah, that's when it was cool because there was a sense of discovery instead of seeing what you expect to see. Because my issue about the art world today is that when you go to an art fair and I'm talking about you go to a specific art fair. And you can't really tell what city you're in, but you see 4 to 5 different dealers all having the same artist. So it's almost like going to a huge shopping mall and there's 3 different department stores and there's even a Prada store, but everybody's selling Prada. You know, once an artist really truly becomes a brand, you know, they've gone, they've flown the nest, it's a done deal. it's a brand to me. I don't generally buy brands. I don't generally buy brands.
Across the board? Fashion too?
Oh no, I'm wearing a Rick Owens dress tonight for you all for the first time.
Okay, good.
No, I love some Rick Owens, really do, really truly do. So no, not fashion too, but no. I mean, you're not going to see me wear something that's all logoed out.
No. Well, all right, so art fairs. Next week is Miami Basel. This is fall 2013. We're doing this webinar. What are your thoughts on art fairs? What do you love about them?
Probably not much at this point.
Okay.
I'm not from Miami. I'm Southern, but I really don't like heat. I love to be cold around Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's kind of sacrificial. I don't mean to make this sound bizarre, but it's kind of sacrificial for me to go someplace that could potentially be sort of humid in November. And as far as Miami, what's happening in Miami is the Wynwood District, Gallery Diet, people like Nina Johnson-Malusky, that is real. I mean, that's art dealer on the ground, real people doing her thing, Miami Rail, good people. And then right down the block from her is Lester's. That's where the artists all fall in to have a cup of coffee or have a beer. To me, that's real. What happens in and around Basel and the Floresville fairs is extremely temporary. It's critical mass and it's temporary. I personally don't need it. I went last year at the behest of some museum people, and I'm going this year because the International Sculpture Conference, who, God bless them, they're the people that entice me to go to New Zealand and see the Connell Bay Sculpture Park and get invited to meet Alan Gibbs and, to ride shotgun with Alan Gibbs and see Gibbs Farm. I do not kid you. It's kind of like the pinnacle of my art life right now. So I'm going down to the ISC Symposium just to kind of slap hands before I go off to the art fairs because I love those International Sculpture Center people. I really do. I think they're real.
What we talk about a lot in the course is the value of relationships. And it was George Newbert called me up and said, I have a slot on this panel. I need somebody. Can you recommend someone? And I said, well, first of all, you need Dana. And second of all, here's some other names, but get Dana. So that it's kind of like if I didn't know George, if George didn't have a need, if I didn't call Dana, if somebody didn't step off the panel, if Dana didn't give the talk and meet the Gibbs and go to New Zealand and meet the Gibbs, the whole thing, I mean, this must happen to you all the time. You make an introduction, and all of a sudden, somebody else's responsibility.
Exactly, that lived in the house that Jack built. Everybody as a little child understands that story, that one thing leads to another. And in the course of that talk at the Art Institute, I was saying the thing that I felt like a mouse in the palace with these other collectors. And one of the people...
The mouse is bored.
But one of the people couldn't show up. Lou Manilow couldn't show up that day, and they asked me to talk, go on. But the reality is, when I finished, I was thinking these people are ready to tar and feather me. But rank and file, the people who are the real makers, the creators, the artists, the sculptors in the group, they stormed the stage. I didn't even turn around to pick up my notes, and they were surrounding me. And some people just walked up and hugged me, and didn't really say anything. And we just had this symbiosis. Like, yeah, we're in this life. If I have a sandwich, I'll give you half. Let's hang out. Let's do our thing. And, oh, by the way, I know somebody who wants to know you. They've got to see your work. That's how it goes. That's the art village.
You know, you can't do any. If you guys have questions, start raising your hands. I mean, and I will call on you. I need to totally give credit to Dana for the Art Village analogy that I use all the time. Yeah. And Dana corrected me, and there are other people that I've had on this, during the course that have corrected me. Dana did it the most gracefully.
It's not the art world, it's the Art Village. Yeah, I'd love to take any questions.
Yeah. All right, Rick. Go ahead, Rick. 1 sec. Wait. Okay, proceed.
I'm really liking where you're coming from, Dana. And when you were talking about the artists that you saw on the train in the Netherlands, you made me cry.
It made me cry that day too.
Very touching.
Dana, a number of people have typed in questions. Sorry to interrupt, Rick, and they wanted to know the name of this artist.
His name, oh God, you've got to know it, because honestly, connect with me on Facebook. I want you to see it. Jean, Jean, Bedez, Bedez, Jean Bedez. So genius. Working with paper and pencil, he breaks my heart. Monumental. Serious.
B-E-D-Z? Four letters in the last name?
No. Jean, first name.
Yeah.
Bedez.
Oh, okay, today. Okay. Rick, please proceed. I apologize for the interruption. Rick,
my question is this: I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
And I've been reaching out to people in the business community here in my city to build relationships. What advice would you have for me in terms of continuing that process of making friends with people who are running and owning businesses in the hopes to not just sell art to them, but to build relationships between artists and business owners, because I feel like they live in different worlds and they really could benefit from knowing each other in many, many ways.
So the first thing to really truly hit home is we all live in the same world. And if what you do makes my world better, and what you do makes my life richer, and I'm convinced of it, I wonder if sometimes I shouldn't go from town to town and Chamber of Commerce to say, just as I heard myself saying in a talk last night, because I was talking about a specific sculpture. We had built the Beckler Museum of Modern Art. But outside of the Beckler Museum of Modern Art, Andreas Beckler, God bless him, had placed in Nikki de St. Paul practically everyone who comes to town, passing 1 hour, 2 weeks, whatever, they get their picture with that sculpture. And my theory is with art, if you place it, they will come. And one of the other ideas that I was putting forward is the idea of pop-up work. I encourage you to go to if you go to my Facebook wall, I have this entire talk. It's a little bit long, but it's something I did in Chicago last year. And it's really talking about if you have this critical mass and you put art there. I saw it happening in Kansas City. Peregrine invited me to Kansas City this summer, and I went, and I saw this amazing community that was happening in and around the creative people. And if it's not happening in your town, you need to convince the perfect people how it can happen. I mean, don't make me come there. I'm not going to come there in the winter, but I won't even go to Chicago after October. So heck no, I'm not going to Michigan. But I would be glad to come to your town and speak to a town council, speak to whatever. Ask them. I'll tell you this. Ask them if they watched Monday Night Football last week. Because I tell you what, This is what will hit your city council and your mayor and your chamber of commerce. Because when Monday Night Football happened in Charlotte and the Panthers won against the Patriots, that program looked so brilliant because they kept doing close-ups of the Beckler Museum of Modern Art, the Nikki de Saint Paul, the wonderful angles, the Romare Bearden Park, which we also did the steel structure for. You know, you do this stuff and people are going to show up. Paul knows because he's right there in Chicago at Millennium Park. What shows up? That shows up. We just have to keep beating the drum and make people realize that it causes community. And if everybody wants to hunker down in their houses and live in bunkers with nothing on the walls and just order garbage from Amazon and eBay, that's not community. Community happens when you come together and there's an excitement and there's a buzz and there's a joy about the reality of what happens being around creativity. That's where life quality is. That's where life quality is. I can talk about it until the cows come in.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dana. Thea, one sec. All right, go ahead, Thea.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Thanks so much. Your energy is so intense. I love it. You're so passionate, and I thank you so much for speaking.
Just the Southern accent.
I'm a sculptor, but my question is about how you went from a painter to being really interested in the business side and how you got involved in that and how that transition.
Okay, very, very quickly. I've always been a painter. I'm still a painter, but I'm a painter who went to Southern California to study jewelry design and learn some process and melting metals and making molds and casting things and melting gold. And the work I did was in gold. I lived in Southern California, and I came back to visit back to the East Coast in North Carolina. And I met this extraordinary man who was in the steel business who tried to explain it in kind of a very, well, let me break it down for you. I went, oh, you cut, you grind, you weld, I get it. I do the same thing. So I've changed in the steel industry. And again, I don't do this anymore as of the end of June. I'm a free-range person now. So maybe that's why I've been to New York more, Paris a lot more, maybe some New Zealand. I'm a free-range person now. But the thing is, the processes in art that I was using in jewelry design were the same processes that put 9 miles of rail at the Bank of America Stadium, where you saw the Panthers win the Monday Night Football game against the Patriots, where you saw the picture of the Beckler Museum, which we did the steel for, where the Nikki de Saint Paul is in the front, that I make everybody get the picture made. So it all goes together. And all of those structures are on the Levine Cultural Campus, where we also did the night theater and the Mint Museum of Art, which is my true passion because they've got the most space. And do not let me forget to mention, just up the street from there, because all of you are artists, is the McCall Center for Visual Art. And in Charlotte is one of the top 3 artist residency programs in the country. And most of you hadn't heard that before. But the McCall Center of Visual Art accepts applications for artists and artists in residency who then get very involved in social issues. So it might be social justice, or it might be environmental issues, or energy sustainability issues, you know. So what kind of excitement is going on in your own community? I'm just talking to you about something that's going on in one little place. I think of myself as a global person, And I think the art village is a global village. And I'm just talking to you about one instance of how it works together in one little place in the village.
Okay. Cool.
Is that Thea or Taya?
Hold on, let me unmute her. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's Thea. Thank you.
Thea.
Yeah.
I've never heard it pronounced Teo. Has that ever happened?
Well,
Yes,
Oh,
all
cool.
the time.
All right, I got educated again. Tanya, your turn. Go ahead.
So first of all, I've been sitting here the whole time, and I feel like the dog in the front of the car with my head just like bobbing. The whole I just want to put my arms around you and give you a big hug and kiss because I haven't heard anyone really on your end of the spectrum really communicate the way that you have so beautifully. It makes me so happy. One of the things I want to say is I have those kinds of relationships with I considered it a problem, which is that 90% of the work I've sold over the course of the last 25 years, I've sold because I've been there. So it's always personal. It's always about relationships. And then I heard you say that's not a problem. And so I started feeling okay about that.
sounds like a good problem.
So I really, mostly what I wanted to say was thank you, and I completely resonated with absolutely everything you said. Thank you, and that's really about it. I'm so happy you're out there.
I'm here.
All right, if there's more questions, I can handle seeing more hands. Dana, are there restraints? I mean, like sometimes the amount of money that a piece costs is a restraint to acquisition. Is nationality, is gender? I mean, are there things that you say? I mean, like in my house, I have mostly small walls, so I don't buy things that are very large. What about you?
I don't. Well, I have to think about it. Right now I'm looking at a painting across the room from me that's 86 inches wide. I generally don't have any paintings that are more. This is just me, but I'm not talking about at home. I don't have any paintings that are more than say 6 feet wide. But I live in an older home, so we have a lot of space, a lot of walls. And my thing, when I got a vision for when you give things to museums, you don't have to take care of it anymore and you don't have to dust it. That kind of frees you up to let go of some things.
Does that mean you buy things periodically that never enter your home and go directly from?
I definitely have.
Okay.
Definitely. And, it's a good thing. I've bought things before. Now, I've bought something, and this is kind of more in an unusual category for me, but I bought a piece of video art. Is anybody a video artist here or no?
Well, some do some video.
Yeah, I bought a piece of video art, and because it was so portable, I said I don't want to carry it on the plane. Because it could disappear. I somehow thought FedEx would be better. And they said, oh, no, just go ahead and take it with you. It's no problem. You can take it. And I was bringing it back from a dealer in New York. And I called a curator to let her know it was on the way, something that was on the way. So, I don't know. I mean, in terms of limitations, what I'm jazzed about right now, Paul, and maybe, I'm not sure about this part, maybe it's because of Alan Gibbs, maybe it's because of Gibbs Farm, maybe it's seeing the largest Anish Kapoor the largest Bernard Venet, the largest Maya Lin, and the largest Richard Serra, not to mention all the other names, with zebras and giraffes running around. Maybe it's that vision. I'm thinking more in terms of collaborative. What can people come together and buy together that's really, really large to put in museums, because so many museums are challenged with their acquisition funds right now. So how can people collaborate and pool their resources and put things in museums and not have to have this is mine, I need to have it for 10 years or 15 or 20, and then, once it appreciates, then I give it away.
Are you finding other collectors/donors to do this with you?
Well, I think we've done it a lot here locally, and I can only speak for people that I really specifically know, and I can say, I know a lot of the names of the people who chipped in to buy that Nick Cave. We all chipped in to commission a Danny Lane wall. I don't know if you know Danny's work, but he does these big architectural glass things that are really massive. And, we all bought it together. I once, with a group of 11 other women, stood up. We all stood up in unison, and we all had Miss America scepters, and we all bid in unison and bought a piece together to go directly to a museum. Sometimes you sort of stack the deck and you plan it, and you go in like a group and you go, yeah, we're going to do this thing, and you do it.
Here's an idea you may be familiar with and maybe can extrapolate from. I don't know if it's still true. The Dallas Art Museum used to buy art with collectors and let the collectors hang it in their home, with the caveat that it would ultimately be given to the museum.
Okay, I'm not sure really what you mean by that, but when it comes to
the museum would pay part of the acquisition price.
Okay, I don't know anything about that, and that kind of sounds shocking to me, because my time in Dallas, I would say Dallas can do anything they want to. That is a separate country. That is a separate environment. And I love some Dallas. Talk about the mothership of Neiman Marcus. Dallas can do anything Dallas wants to do. Do not stand in their way. Don't tell them. And, Houston's the same thing. They can do whatever they need to do.
I was there 2 weeks ago for a week in Dallas, and I know what you mean.
Yeah. If they want it, it'll happen.
It's different. John, your turn. Go ahead, John.
Really nice talk. Thank you so much. What catches your eye?
Where?
When you're looking at when you're in a fair, when you're in a museum, when you're in a gallery, what excites you? Because you see a lot of art.
Okay. All right. A lot of different things based on where it is and what it is. When I walk into an art fair, sometimes the thing that catches my eye, because art fairs, if you go to a lot of them, they're extremely samey. Seen it, done it, yeah. She's got one up, yeah. What catches me at an art fair is something that I haven't seen before. Okay? But then what catches me in the wild is something that just has this visceral gut punch that is unforgettable. And that would be, for me this year, it would be that huge, massive Richard Serra with the sheep's wool on the bottom. It would also be, as much as people want to make fun and hate Damien Hirst, it would be seeing that one particular piece, For the Love of God, after seeing his entire retrospective at the Tate in London, but seeing For the Love of God exactly on the day that we were getting a call to come home because someone in our extended family was terminal. We had to get home then. How much more real can you get than all of life and death, which is all Hearst is about, you know, all life and death and mortality. And although you had to buy a pricey ticket, I mean, I got some sort of sponsor. I didn't even have to pay to go in. But you had to buy a pricey ticket to see a retrospective. But that platinum diamond encrusted skull with human teeth, which I think is brilliant, really brilliant. What a touch of brilliance to leave the teeth natural. That skull was open to the public free of charge. And so you went into a black box environment, and this thing is rotating. It's completely dark. You can't see the people that probably are wearing night goggles and holding machine guns focused on you and all this kind of stuff. You know, you can't see that. You just see this wonderful, scintillating memento mori. And personally, I always have a memento mori. I realize we're just passing through. That really spoke to me. It really, truly spoke to me. You know, so sometimes it's really the big things. But then when it comes to emerging art, sometimes it's the energy of the environment. I don't know if she's still here, but when Peregrine invited me to Kansas City this past summer, it seemed crazy. I had just flown in from Paris. I repacked a suitcase, and I went straight to Kansas City to see what they had going on West 18th Street. And just the excitement and the energy of all that emerging artists had come together, and emerging designers and accessory designers, because there was a real fashion component to what they were doing. And we were sitting around in her studio talking about art and actually painting and finishing things for the show that was coming up and all this stuff, and spending time together. That, to me, was art. And that was art in America, and that was contemporary art in America. And I loved that, just like I loved being at Gibbs Farm, seeing those massive sculptures, just like I loved being at that huge retrospective, you know? So to me, it's the visceral experience at all different levels of things, whether something's for sale or not for sale. Or think about having a lunch this October in Paris with that artist that was just so woebegone and bedraggled and all these other things, you know, way back in the summer of 2011. You know, seeing that person blossom and flower and being and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And all I said was, here, this is all the money I have. Buy all the art supplies you have and make more. You know, I mean, you know, it's all the same thing. It's all part of the great woven together reality of us. It's all the great creative life quality. Don't you think, John?
Oh, wait, I'm going to unmute John. Yeah, don't you think, John?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Uh-oh, here comes Peregrine talking about lobster. Oh, well.
Oh. Because I bought a lobster in Paris to wear to Kansas City on top of my head.
Yeah, there are pictures. You guys got to be Peregrine too, but Dana's Facebook friend, so that you can see pictures of her lobster. Let's take one more question and wrap it up. Joyce, go ahead.
Great to meet you via this webinar. I had just 2 points I wanted to ask you about, and one was, as an artist, how should one really approach a collector? I mean, you sound a lot more open than I would guess 99% of the collectors are, whose time is, I don't know, very booked and so on. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. And then also...
Wait. Joyce, let's do one, and then we'll come back to the next.
Okay, great, thanks.
How to approach? You know, I don't know. I think the most, you know, I think the most natural thing. Okay, think about this. When I invited the artist and the curator to the luncheon just now in October at my favorite restaurant in Paris, we didn't plan that when he first stepped on that train. that was completely organic. So I think you have to take the organic reality of your own life and say, how do I make this larger? How do I make this more real? Do I need to step out? Do you need to be in places where you meet people? I don't know. But neither he nor I could have orchestrated that meeting. I was not looking to talk to an artist. I was too blinking tired. I had talked to, there's a great gallerist in Amsterdam, Ron Mandos. I'd been talking to Ron that afternoon about art that he was going to be taking to Venice to show. I didn't want to talk to people about art. You know, I think that the great encounters of life happen when we're not necessarily looking for them. So because I believe so much in that, I don't want to sound like I'm the person that believes everything sprinkled with fairy dust, but I just believe so much in the organic reality of meeting people. I'm not sure how you manufacture it. Let me give you another example. I was on the board of a specific museum that had to do more with photography and everything. So I had a luncheon that I had in Miami during the time of Basel several years ago. And a lot of different artists came and collectors came and other people came. But there was an artist who was down at the end of the table. And although he had lunch with us that day, he and I didn't exchange 2 words. But we became Facebook friends. And when I was in Paris, I said something, and this was at Paris maybe 2011. And I said something about being in Paris. He just sent me a Facebook message, oh, I'm in Paris now. And I was thinking, I don't have time for this. I had just met with Tom Sachs here where I live, but I'd seen Tom Sachs' studio in New York. And so I wanted to go by his dealer in Paris and go to the dealer who is Thaddeus Ropac and see the Anthony Gormley show, because Gormley is interesting to me. So when this artist contacted me via Facebook, I got his name, we had messages. So where are you? Where could we meet? He said, I'm at Thaddeus Ropac. He was at the dealer where I wanted to go. So in connecting with him, because his dealer at the time is a woman out of Miami that I really, really trust and like. Her gallery is called Gallery Diet. And, you know, she said, you know, you all can connect because you're here. And I went over there, and I was going exactly someplace I wanted to go. Do you hear what I'm saying, Joyce? It can't just be me. It can't just be me, because my life is like this. I mean, I wanted to go to Gibbs Farm for 5 to 7 years or whatever. I decided within the span of a week to go to New Zealand. I say you make the most, here's what I say, make the most of an opportunity. And if you're not in a place that you're running into people, then, you know, change the environment a little bit, switch it up. But look at all these people you're talking to tonight. And how are you connected to everybody who's in this webinar? And how much does that increase your sphere of influence and connect you to other people? You know, maximize that. And then let it ride.
Beautiful.
I can't hear.
I think some of what you're saying is be personable and personal. And, you know, be yourself.
No, I'm just saying be present. Be present. Be present. And then, you know, make the most of an opportunity when it comes up.
Joyce, do you have another? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Dana, you seem to be a great facilitator of relationships.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of collectors are, you know, really too busy unless you're, you know, Ansel Kiefer or somebody, you know. And I don't know. I think it's rather off-putting for a lot of artists to approach collectors. And you know, you're not typical, is my point.
Well, let me just say I'm sorry for them. Let me just say I'm sorry for them. Because I'm a person, you're a person, she's a person, shouldn't we all be people? As far as the I'm too busy, you're too busy, all these other things, you know, we're all busy. This is it. We're all too busy. But there's a legitimacy of being human and interacting really. And if you let your interactions be real and organic, and you're not just looking to put a sales pitch on somebody, because the reality is, you know, people shouldn't be buying art just because it's pitched to them, right? They should be buying things they really truly love.
Could you talk a little bit about your collection? Does it have a particular theme? Do you collect only paintings or what?
Well, I know more about painting than I do most other media. Okay, but I wouldn't necessarily say I collect more painting. It is interesting. I do see different themes repeated. For instance, one of my children got married this year in May, and prior to her wedding, we de-installed a space that was maybe 36 by 15 or so. We took everything out of it, and we completely installed it with art that had to do with wings, flight, the suggestion of being unbound, freedom, you know, whatever, you know, a loose theme that had to do with flying. And I don't want to make you think that it was filled just with birds, but amazingly, when I began to think about that, I uncovered more pieces through the whole range of the collection than I realized I actually have that fit that theme. So if I'd been curating something of that particular theme, I could have filled an entire gallery and then some with it. So sometimes collectors very consciously hook on a theme. Other times, if I meet you and I have to have what you have, I want the best of what you have. You know, to me. So if I walk into an exhibit, I would ideally, I'd like to be there before it opens. I would like to be there with other people without a lot of energy bouncing off of it. I want to really go in and I want to interact with it. And amazingly, I bring it back and see it around other things. So whether it's at my house or my office or museum space, I see that it's got real legitimate relationship. So I believe that the work of living artists is very much like inviting different people to a dinner party. You don't want too much the same. If collectors make any mistake, it's beginning to think that they've got a lock on their vision and everything is so samey that it becomes static and stale. I like a little bit of tension, and I like a little bit of mixing up.
I like that approach. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. You know, I think we've gone on a little long, and I think it's been a lot fabulous. Dana is remarkable. I would encourage you guys to listen to the previous discussions with Dana. She's grown. Her vision has gotten larger. The energies remain constant, but, you know, she's not stagnant, and it's been really fabulous. And Dana, you are a remarkable, wonderful human being. We look forward to knowing, you know, more of you or more people like you. But I think you're wonderful, and I think you're a real gift to artists and to art, and I hope you and I run into each other next week in Miami, and I'm unmuting everybody so we can say thank you for a wonderful discussion. We love you. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dana.